Hey friends, time for another quick conversation I call, Can You Talk Real Quick? Usually 10 or 15 minutes with somebody about a very topical, pertinent issue that I want to learn more about and help you learn more about. Today, that is student loan debt forgiveness or repayment. And my guest from We the 45 Million is activist Melissa Byrne. USA Today says for more than 3 years, tens of millions of federal student debt holders haven't had to think about saving for or paying off their loans. But that's all ending very soon in the wake of the debt ceiling deal hammered out between President Joe Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. Millions of former students will see their student loan payments and accrual of interest on those loans resume as early as late August. The pause, first implemented by the former President Donald Trump, was welcome relief after COVID-19 sparked an economic downturn that made it more difficult for many who'd borrowed tens of thousands of dollars to pay for their schooling to keep up with payments. Well, President Biden extended the pause and its 0% interest rate multiple times despite growing pressure to lift the moratorium. But last week, in exchange for a raised debt ceiling, the Biden administration agreed, among other things, that it would renege on the, quote, final pause like it did last year. Last August, the administration said the fourth and final extension would expire on December 31st, 2022. But by November, they extended that deadline either 60 days after the Supreme Court issues a decision on the relief program or 60 days after June 30th, whichever comes first. Here's Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal.
Higher education of all kinds is no longer affordable for many Americans. Nearly 44 million borrowers have $1.6 trillion in federal student debt, and middle-income borrowers owe an average of $43,000. Recognizing this crisis, President Biden's student debt relief plan will cancel up to $20,000 in student debt for over 40 million borrowers from low and middle-income families. Despite these benefits to working families, my Republican colleagues want to stop this transformative plan. Just last week in this committee, Republicans advanced a disapproval resolution to reverse the payment pause and block relief without advancing any higher ed reforms to reduce costs.
All right, Congresswoman Jayapal getting to the root of the issue and pointing out some Republican hypocrisy, which is, of course, nothing new. And now it's time to get to my guest, Melissa Byrne. She's the founder of Project Springboard, which is a new space to organize defaulted student loan borrowers and parents of future college students fight for loan forgiveness and free college. She's led campaigns to work for economic, racial, and gender justice. She elected progressives to office up and down the ticket. She also has strong feelings about tech companies actively empowering hatred in order to make profits. Follow her on Twitter at MC Byrne. Donate to We the 45 Million. And now it's time to talk real quick with the indomitable Melissa Byrne. All right, so I figured I'd call up the great Melissa Byrne and ask, can you talk real quick? Hey, Melissa.
Hey, I always have time for you, Pete.
Thank you so much for joining me. I know you're running around, you're activisting, you're doing important things for a lot of people, but I'm very concerned, and I thought you'd be the person to go to about what is happening with student debt relief. So I'm not sure where to start. I thought I'd start by talking a little bit about your triumph, just in case people didn't know how you got to here, and then maybe work our way back.
Sure. I mean, a lot of hard work went into getting where we are today, which about 8 months ago, the president announced an executive order to cancel up to $20,000 of student loan debt for borrowers with federally held student loans who make under $125,000 a year. And that was this amazing first step towards really fixing how higher education works, because we need to have a just higher education system. And then, of course, because we can't have good things in this country, the Republicans and their dark money entities started trying to fight us because they like misery and suffering.
They certainly do. I mean, how much have you been able to trace who's behind that dark money, where it's coming from? Because clearly it's someone with, I mean, maybe it's not an ideological interest. Maybe it's a financial.
So if you go to the Supreme Court website and you look at the case and the two cases at the Supreme Court attacking student loan relief, the entire dark money ecosystem filed amici briefs telling the court to invalidate student loan relief. So we had Citizens United showed up, like literally that, Citizens United. You had the Cato Institute, Heritage. It's like all of the evil dark money in the country is coming after 40 million student loan borrowers who all they want to do is have a shot at dignity.
So you guys won, and then it got brought to the Supreme Court. And now the Supreme Court is going to decide, has anybody received any relief, any money back, anything at all?
People have gotten notice because I didn't want them to do an application process because I don't like applications. I believe relief should be automatic. But the one upside of the White House doing an application for relief, and it was a very simple application, is that in the span of 3 weeks, the application was live for 3 weeks from when it was rolled out like a Beyonce album on a Friday night, dropped out there without any advertising. Through the Friday Night Massacre, where the Eighth Circuit did the Eighth Circuit ruled, and then the application got taken down during a FedSoc party when the Mark Pittman ruled about invalidating the whole program. 26 million people engaged with the student loan cancellation program, and that was before even $1 of relief was given, which showed that it's incredibly popular for people who have student loan debt. A whole bunch of people were approved for relief, and they got a letter, I believe early this year, letting them know they had been approved for relief, but everything is on hold because of these dark money nerds that are funding efforts to hurt people.
Okay, so now it's at the Supreme Court, though, right? I mean, is that where it's going to?
Yes. So I am joking around that we are in the phase of any given Thursday, because the Supreme Court comes out with rulings or opinions on Thursdays. So any given Thursday, we will find out. And then, of course, the court could also decide to do additional days because I think they still have about 23 cases left to give opinions on this before they all run away to their beach homes.
Yes, it's going to be a brutal June for sure at the judicial branch at the Supreme Court.
They already killed part of the Clean Water Act, so they're just on a roll.
Oh, yeah. Wait till they get done with affirmative action. And by that, I mean they're going to be done with affirmative action in colleges. So what about the debt ceiling? Where does this come into play? The deal to suspend a debt ceiling was signed into law. I thought it codified into the law the administration's earlier announcement that payments would resume by September 1st, and then the legislation won't have another extension.
Yeah, so basically Kevin McCarthy whined and said he would basically default the global economy if he wasn't able to attack student loan relief. He originally wanted the bill that the Republican only bill that was passed, the whatever they're hurt people more bill, repealed student loan relief, the whole program for everybody. And my organization, We the 45 Million, we did 2 sit-ins in his DC office calling him out for trying to repeal all student loan relief. And then so we I want to take credit that we shamed him away from being able to demand that. But it is disappointing that they came to an agreement on codifying the end of this payment pause.
But that was part of the debt deal.
Yes, but the language in the bill, at least, is very narrow. It relates just to using what was done in the CARES Act. So it's a very narrow interpretation, but it's still not great. And I was definitely incredibly disappointed, and it was very hard for me to keep my filter on because there was a lot of things I just wanted to tweet out there that probably wouldn't have been helpful for the greater good of being able to make sure we deliver on relief. But I think what really matters is the message right now is we cannot have return to repayment without cancellation being delivered. It's 40 million people who were promised relief, 20 million of whom were expecting to have a zero balance once the relief was delivered. And so it's our job as advocates, it's people's jobs as allies to all of us in student loan debt to make sure that happens, that we don't have repayment until cancellation is delivered.
CancelStudentDebt.org to learn more. What do you do? What does your organization do? What does the movement do if the Supreme Court decides to strike it down?
Those are conversations we'll have once we get a ruling. Because we live in an era of lawfare where some of the clerks from the other side could be listening to or consuming any kind of media. We're just very clear on right now, we are just we are very optimistic that the court will follow the rule of law because it's very clear that none of the plaintiffs had standing to bring this. A Republican judge in Missouri found there was no standing on the case, 6 attorney generals. And then the case in Texas, they venue shopped to find one of the most right-wing Trump judges, Mark Pittman, to, have the case in front of. So I think it's just really important that for right now, it's just focused on waiting out that hearing and waiting out that opinion. And in the meantime, no one should sign up for IDR. No, people should actually disconnect your auto payments from your account And like, we all have to band together that we are going to make sure that there will be no return to repayment without cancellation being delivered. And then you should see if I'm able to talk on the day of the ruling.
Yes. What else should people be doing?
They should be, bugging our members of Congress to make sure they're letting the White House know that you cannot have return to repayment without cancellation being delivered. People should be signing up, telling their story, and making sure that people know that, like, in the world of organizing, nothing is ever inevitable. Lots of times people in power want to make things seem like they're a done deal. But, it's never a done deal until it's done. And 2 years ago or a year ago, no one would have believed that, President Joe Biden would be the one that would do student loan relief. And so we won that. And so we can just, we just have to do the hard work of organizing as long as people don't give in to misery and despair. Because we have to keep ourselves up, because there's a lot of borrowers who are going to be incredibly hurt if we lose. There's mental health concerns, there's financial concerns. And so we have to be the ones that keep it together and fight so that way we do deliver this win, because losing is just not an option.
Very well said. And even when it's done, it's not done. We've learned that over and over by things that we thought
got to defend the wins.
Were settled. Melissa, thanks for talking to me for a few minutes. I really appreciate it, and always inspired by you and your colleagues, fellow activists, doing this amazing work for so many millions of Americans. Thank you.
Thank you. I look forward to talking to you again.
There she goes, Melissa Byrne. To donate to We the 45, you can find the show links or just Google We the 45M. We the 45 million, everybody. I hope you appreciated that quick conversation, and will cancel student debt and disconnect your auto payments if they try to come for it. That is a really great, passionate, inspiring, very funny young woman who I thought was awesome. And I was very happy to have her joining me on this quick conversation. If you'd like me to give somebody a call and tape a quick chat, let me know who. Maybe it's you. Okay. Talk to you later. Thanks for listening. Subscribe now. Okay. I got to go make some more calls now. Talk to you later.